Hello, what's up mga katunay? Ako nga pala si BT at nandito ngayon tayo sa BT Reaction. And welcome to my channel, Tunay na Kritiko. Ayan, at meron po tayong panonooring isang video ngayon. Ito po ay nagmula kay Pinas Reality TV. Sa mga hindi pa po nakakabisita sa channel ni Pinas Reality TV, bisita na po kayo mga katunay, at kung hindi pa kayo nakakapag-subscribe, subscribe na din po kayo mga katunay. At huwag na nating pagtagalin at sabay-sabay na nating panoorin ang laman ng videong ito at bibigyan ko ng reaksyon. Pasok! Pinas Reality TV. Ayan. Let the truth prevail.
Before, we used to say that being president is to a certain extent about character. We can say that being president of this country is entirely about character. Government is choosing. Government is prioritizing. And during his watch, President Ferdinand Marcos cannot always be on the right. He must take up matters as a whole to make things perfect for the country, and not only for the foreign hands that have always been manipulating us. Marcos knew then that the international proponents of free trade did not conceal their underlying and motivating belief that the nation-state is obsolete and the whole world must be transformed into a global village, where a nation's economic sovereignty is surrendered to those who run the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and the World Trade Organization. With his wife Imelda by his side, Ferdinand proved to be a dynamic, innovative, and forward-looking leader with self-sufficiency for the country as his immediate goal. He laid down the foundations of the nation's economic infrastructure by building more and better national roads, bridges, public edifices, which he later dubbed as concrete monuments to progress. What makes a home? Love. And what is love made real? Beauty.
Ayan pinapakita sa videong ito, no? Lahat ng mga nagawa ni Apo Lakay sa Pilipinas nung siya ay nanunungkulan pa. Ito yung magandang mapanood ng mga hindi nakakaalam, no? Etong videong ito. Kasi dito malalaman lahat ng mga ginawa niya para sa Pilipinas. Tapos sinasabi ng iba, wala namang nagawa si FEM, ganto, ganyan, ganyan. Pero ito ngayon pa lang lumalabas itong video na to, no? Ngayon pa lang mga naglalabas, no? At nasasaksihan natin ang lahat ng mga ginawa ni Apo Lakay para sa Pilipinas.
What was the beautiful tradition, values, art that we had as a people? So Imelda built the Cultural Center of the Philippines to be a monument to the Filipino spirit, to give standard, to give identity, because there was a crisis of identity for Filipinos. This was followed by the Folk Arts Theater, the Institute of Arts in Makiling, the Philippine International Convention Center. As time passed, they forgot how Marcos tried to control the prices of oil and other commodities and struggled to put up industrial projects that could have given more jobs and lifted the nation's economy. Imelda had to face the trial of the century in New York, charged with stealing $43 billion from the coffers of the government when the nation's budget for 20 years of Marcos' rule reached up to only $32 billion. Simple arithmetic. With his meager Ilocano budget, as it were, President Marcos embarked on a massive buildup of roads, bridges, and other infrastructure projects meant for the betterment of the country's economic structure. Sad to say, the succeeding presidents had little to show, despite their huge benefits. A summary of government expenditures from 1966 to 1997. Number 1. President Ferdinand Edralin Marcos, 1965 to 1986, 20 years, 486 billion 273 million. Number 2, President Corazon Aquino, 1986 to 1991, 6 years, 1 trillion 77 billion 895 million.
Laki ng budget, no?
Number 3, President Fidel Ramos,
Di ba ang trillion mas mataas sa billion, no? Tama ba ako? Tama ba mga katunay? Oh, laki ng budget ni Cory, no? Samantalang kay FEM, maliit lang, no? Billion. Billion lang. Nilalang lang, eh, no? Sana all may billion tsaka trillion.
1992 to 1997, 6 years, 2 trillion 237 billion 907 million from the National Statistics Office. On the core of the family, which is the barangay, he made the political system more grassroots and extensive by adopting the barangay system, which enabled the smallest units of the system, to which the core is the family, to participate in the democratic process by making them responsible for administrative and legal functions within their barangay. The barangay leaders and officers were made elective in their respective communities. It was through the barangay where his concept of a participatory democracy found its tangible roots. When the first barangay election was held at a time when the country only had a population of 51 million, 3 million were elected to represent 42,000 barangays. Serving as a co-pillar to the democratic vision of President Marcos was the creation of the Ministry of Human Settlements and entrusted to his wife, the First Lady, Imelda Marcos. As Governor of Metro Manila and Minister of Human Settlements, Mrs. Marcos conceptualized and implemented her program of delivering 11 basic needs to Metro Manila residents. 1. Water. 2. Electricity. 3. Food through agriculture. 4. Clothing through cottage industries. 5. Livelihood or the economic base. 6. Medical services. 7. Education, culture, and technology. 8. Ecological balance. 9. Sports and recreation. 10. Shelter, which includes housing and land use. And 11. Mobility, which includes roads.
Ayan, ayan yung ilan sa mga nagawa ni FEM. Ayan, nakikita naman natin, no, yung naging progreso nung panahon ni Apo Lakay. Yan yung talagang kinainggitan sa kanya ng mga panahon na yun. Di ba? Kaya talagang hindi naman siya talaga nakakababa sa pwesto eh. Kumbaga, gusto siya ng mga tao eh. Tingin ko, ganun ha. Kasi talagang nakikita naman ng progreso. Di ba? Kaso nga lang, ang naging problema, yung mga kaliwa, yun ang ayaw ng progreso. Di ba? Talagang yung kumakalaban noon sa gobyerno niya. Kaya talagang gumawa sila ng paraan para mapatalsik sa panunungkulan si Apo Lakay. O, di ba? Eh, nung napatalsik sa katungkulan si Apo Lakay, ano nangyari sa Pilipinas? Lahat yan, nawala. Di ba? Nalugmok tayo sa kahirapan na hanggang ngayon ay dinadala natin. At syempre, magpasalamat tayo dahil unti-unti nang binabangon ni PBBM ang Pilipinas. At sana magtuloy-tuloy pa to sa mga susunod pang presidente pagkatapos ni PBBM.
She constructed housing units known as the Bliss Homes, coupled with livelihood projects. This provided not only low-cost dwelling units but also income for the less fortunate residents. Kadiwa centers and rolling stores selling prime commodities at lower prices were established and mobilized around Metro Manila's impoverished areas. Metro Aid centers were organized that provided employment for some 10,000 Metro Aids who were responsible for the cleanliness and beautification of the metropolis. Hospitals and institutions with specialization in various fields, such as the Heart Center, Kidney Center, Lung Center, the Children's Hospital, among others, were established. The Philippine General Hospital was reconstructed and expanded to extend better and more efficient service to a greater number of our Filipino people.
Ayan, hanggang ngayon pinapakinabangan pa yan ng ating mga kababayan. Nandiyadyaan pa yung mga yan. Di ba? Yung mga nakakaraan ba na pagkatapos ni FEM, yung mga pumalit kay FEM, nakagawa ba ng ganyan? Di ba? Di ba hindi?
Imelda had done more good for the Filipino people than all the presidents combined, except, of course, President Ferdinand Marcos. On the matter of sovereignty, the RP-US Military Bases Agreement was signed on March 14, 1947. It provided the United States with 99 years lease to more than 20 base sites covering some 250,000 hectares in 13 provinces. In 1959, the base's area was reduced to 117,075 hectares. President Ferdinand Marcos refused to compromise the nation's sovereignty and territorial integrity in the negotiations for the Military Bases Agreement. Thus, the Serrano-Bolin Memorandum of Lease Agreement from 99 years to 25 years. In 1976, President Marcos further reduced the base's area to 71,000 hectares. President Marcos reduced the lease agreement from 25 years to 5 years and 250,000 hectares to 10,000 hectares coverage. It also reaffirmed Philippine sovereignty over the bases, and President Marcos called it, fittingly, the final liberation of the Philippines. Following the 1983 Military Bases Agreement review, President Ronald Reagan pledged his best efforts to increase security assistance to the Philippines to $900 million for the period 1984 to 1986, $125 million to military assistance grants, $300 million in foreign military sales credits, and $475 million in economic support funds. And now the question arises, who killed Senator Benigno Aquino?
Ayan.
This is the question that remains unanswered to this day. Here are the facts. It was Madam Imelda Marcos who facilitated his departure for the United States for that heart operation that he so badly needed. It was Mrs. Marcos who arranged everything so that his flight via Philippine Airlines to the United States was on schedule. Upon learning of his desire to come home, reached President Marcos, it was again Mrs. Marcos who was sent to the United States to ask him to delay his flight home due to an intelligence report that some people wanted to do him harm. It was Mrs. Marcos who frequently had dialogue with Senator Aquino then during Mrs. Marcos's frequent trips to the United States on official basis.
Ayan, no? Pinagbintangan nila yung mga Marcos na siyang may gawa sa pagkawala ni Ninoy Aquino. Pero ito, napanood at malinaw naman, no? Na binigyan pa ng babala ni Madam Imelda Marcos si Ninoy na wag muna umuwi dahil nga may mga banta sa kanyang buhay. Kung gusto talaga ng mga Marcos na may gawing masama kay Ninoy, bakit ipapadala si Ninoy sa Amerika para magpagamot? Di dapat dito pala sa Pilipinas hindi na siya pinagamot. Pinategi na siya agad, di ba? Sobra kasi kayong mag-isip. Ginagawa nila dating bobo yung mga tao, no? Ginagawa nilang bobo, no, nung mga nasa kaliwa, na pinaniwala yung mga tao na ang mga Marcos ang may gawa. Pero kung yung senaryo ay babalikan mo at ibubuksan mo yung utak mo, magagawa ba ng mga Marcos yun? Samantalang pinagamot pa si Ninoy noong mga panahon na yon. At nagbigay ng babala si Madam Imelda kay Ninoy na wag umuwi ng Pilipinas dahil may mga nagbabalak sa kanyang masama. O, di ba? So, paano sila napagbintangan sa ganun? Di ba? At saka kung gusto nilang gawin yung mga ganong bagay, di dapat, di ba, pinahiring squad na siya, di ba? Alam ko, mayroong mga ganon, di ba? Hinatulan siya ng mga ganon, di ba? Dapat hindi na siya pinapunta ng Amerika at pinagamot. Dito pala sa Pinas. O, di ba? Kaya sinasabi natin eh. Ginawang bobo ng mga nasa kaliwa, yung mga tao. Pati lahat tayo. Di ba? Pero ngayon, hindi na eh. Kasi matalino na tayong lahat. Lahat ng 31 million na nakakaintindi na. No? At dati pa talaga nakakaintindi. Marami lang talaga na pro-Marcos na hindi makapagsalita noong mga panahon na yon. O, di ba, dahil iba pa yung gobyerno natin noon eh. Pero ngayon, is hindi na nakapagtimpe ang 31 million. At isinigaw na, no? Ang katotohanan. At nakikita natin at napapanood na. No? Lumaban na ang 31 million mahigit na bumoto kay BBM. At eto, lumabas na ang mga katotohanan tungkol sa istorya ng mga Marcos.
But all these were not. He was being given the wrong information. The biggest lie of all was that President Marcos was dying. All the admonitions for him to delay his trip fell on deaf ears. He insisted on coming home after being fed the erroneous information that Marcos was dying. The rest, as you know, is history. A tragic mistake in judgment on his part. A tragic error that cost him his life. Who killed Ninoy? Let it be enough when we say maybe whoever did him in still walks amongst us. On the question, was Marcos a dictator? The answer, no.
Oh, ayan
Marcos was a great Democrat.
Ayun.
A dictator never calls for an election.
Tama. Ayan At ayan po, at ating natunghayan ang video na nagmula kay Pinas Reality TV. Ayan Tama nga naman. Sasabihin mo bang diktador si Marcos? Bakit siya sumisigaw ng eleksyon? Bakit niya pa hinamon si Cory na ng eleksyon? O, mag-snap election tayo, mag-election tayo. 'Di ba? Kung talagang diktador, bakit wala na? Kita niyo naman si Hitler ng mga panahon na 'yon, talagang, 'di ba? May kapangyarihan ka. Ipa-execute mo lahat ng mga tao. Kaya mo eh. Pero hindi ginawa ni Apo Lakay yung mga ganung bagay. As in, dinaan niya pa rin sa legal na pamamaraan. Ha, 'di ba? Nakita natin yan. Nanalo pa nga siya eh. Kaso talagang gumawa sila ng paraan para mapatalsik si FEM. Di ba? Kaya eto, ang Pilipinas, nalugmok. Kaya eto, sana, lahat tayo, 31 million, madagdagan pa at dumami pa sana ang mamulat sa katotohanan. At ang mga susunod na presidente na uupo pagkatapos si PBBM, sana ay maging maayos. Kaya mag-ingat tayo. No? Tayong mga bumoboto. Alright? So once again, I'm BT and I'm out. Peace!